Welcome back, everybody. It is time. It is week one. We are here at what an exciting time it is. 2 days away from real live football. I am Matt Cross, the commissioner of the league, as I am here every week. And I'm joined by quite a distinguished guest here. Going to list off some accolades here in our 3-year history. He's made the playoffs every year. He's been in 2 championship games, and he's our reigning champion. He is well known for being very toxic in the group chat towards pretty much every league member at some point or other time. His greatest accomplishment is by far making ProSol leave the group chat, and we'll be on the Corn Ferry Tour golfing in 2026 or so with how his game is progressing. So with that welcome, I will welcome the league champion, Ed Regler, to the podcast. How you doing, Ed?
Good. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining me. It's going to be fun to get a little rotation going here with people. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask you a couple questions and just, see how the victory tour has been going and what have you been doing to celebrate?
Yeah. As far as celebration goes, I have just been struggling to get my team together. I've just been immediately left into a fucking hole of despair with my picks. Kind of me not want to win it again and just tank. But as far as celebration goes, most of the money went to the belt, so I didn't even get to enjoy that. But it
But
is
the belt
nice.
is pretty sweet, though, isn't it?
It is nice to be the first one to really have it.
Yeah, that it is. So speaking of the draft, like kind of, I know we're going over the 12th pick and you weren't super excited about that, but what was kind of your game plan going in with that? And then how do you think the picks played out? Did you get the guys you wanted to get, or did you feel like you reached a little bit, or how did that feel?
Yeah, I was reaching all over the place. Pretty much reached on every pick. I did get a lot of the players I wanted. I was happy that Brees Hall fell again to me.
Mhm.
That's hopefully another keeper candidate. I'm sure Jahmyr Gibbs will be one as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I reached on him. So, but I feel pretty good about that pick. I think he's a really good running back. I think Bijan has kind of overshadowed his hype a little bit, but Bijan is Bijan. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that take, and I kind of agree with the strategy because it's like picking in that wheel spot on the end there. It's you get 2 guys and you got to wait 23 guys in between, so you really got to kind of pick your poison of who you want to get there. But yeah, how did you feel about the draft grade that Nick and I broke down last week? And were there any other ones besides yours that you may have agreed or disagreed with on a stronger level than what we said?
Yeah, I think my grade it's probably overall fair. I mean, it's hard at the 12th.
Mm,
It is what it is. I couldn't do like any of the strategies you see on TikTok and Twitter and whatnot.
yeah.
I had to go out and fill this roster up with players who I know can make an impact. So yeah. Um,
And
as
then
far-
just kind of going in with expectations for this year, Chad. I know you're not super high on your team right now, but kind of looking back on your track record, you've had a lot of drafts where you've missed out on some guys, or you might not have taken the best player on the board that year, but you seem to always find yourself into contention to win it all. So what just going in with that expectation, like I feel like you like your groundwork you've laid here, and see where the waiver wire flows. But you feeling like generally that you can make the playoffs this year and compete a little bit?
yeah, I'm gonna need Brees Hall coming back to what he did
Yeah.
last. Um, that's step number one. I've always been really good with the waiver wires. I feel like so.
I would agree.
We're gonna have to play that hard this year again. And I'm really just gonna need Lamar to show up for once for me. He had one really good game last year, and then he kind of just was middle of the pack as far as quarterback play goes in
When
fantasy.
even him just playing some December football for you would go a long way, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big key to this year. I'm gonna need Devonta Smith back, kind of doing
Mhm.
what he was doing. Hopefully, there's not a huge fall off. I still think he's a really talented wide receiver. If AJ Brown wasn't there, he's obviously number
Oh,
one on
sure.
that. Zay Flowers, another just risky pick. Big hopes with that though. I think he's a great player. Hopefully, him and Lamar kind of bond and there's a connection there, and that's a good handcuff. And that's the same reason I kind of went with Kittle in picked up Purdy again because that's my guy. So
There you go. He won you the league last year, so you got to shout him out a little bit. But just last question here: who are you looking forward to beating the most this year?
who we give the number one rank to?
The top three teams I think we gave the list to were George, Nick, and Mike were the top three.
Honestly, Mike, because I think I have my worst record is against him. So
Hmm.
he was dog shit last year. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. So
There it is.
there we go.
That's what we were trying to get out of you there. So, with all that being said, thank you for the interview there, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and we're just going to kind of get into everybody's matchups here and kind of give some opinions. So let me just see my screen okay here. Well, you're on your phone, but you got to pull up on your computer, I'm sure. So we tried to do something here this week, open the week with trying to get some grudge matches going, trying to get some relationships. I ended up slotting myself against George here, so a little brother-in-law action. So just keep things fun, start off things hot, and definitely didn't do myself any favors with giving myself a favorable matchup. But I'm just going to kind of go down the line, each team's line here. Not going to really talk about defenses and kickers too much because I really think we can both agree that they don't really mean much.
I don't know. The Eagles defense kind of carried me a lot last year. They were
well, if you would like to shine some light on some of these defenses, by far, you can definitely go ahead and do that. I would just not be spending my word limit for the day on those. So just kind of looking at Georgia's team here, going down the left side of the screen. Joe Burrow against Cleveland is a huge question mark for me. How's that calf going to be? And he played really poorly last week one. So and it's at Cleveland, so it won't be the easiest game for him to come out there and play. What do you think?
No, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think there's going to be some regression on the Bengals. I think Chase is going to be a little bit less than what he was. Joe Burrow, I don't know. I think he's going to be pretty limited, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that take. I definitely think early on in the season, he's definitely going to be limited as far as his mobility and everything just with that leg injury. They're definitely going to want to take him slow. And then going sliding down here to his running backs here. I honestly dislike both of these running backs very much at this week. I'm not a big Najee fan, and against that San Fran defense, that's going to be really tough. And Javonte, who knows, because his knee was shattered in half last year.
Yeah, I don't know. That projection's wild to me. He had a really bad knee injury. I don't know how he's going to get 10 points, honestly. So,
yeah, a lot of guys seem to come off of those significant knee injuries and really need like a half a season to kind of get back to where they got to get to. Like JK, when he came back, he definitely was maybe 60% of what he was. So, same situation for you and Brees. But obviously, looking here at Jefferson and Amon-Ra, I mean, slam dunk superstar guys that are just going to get it done every week. So this week's definitely going to be a good week for them, I think, with these matchups they have and just getting the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think those wide receivers are going to have to play out of their mind to kind of cover for Williams and Harris. But
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, you don't really need too much out of it. You don't need them to be lead, RB1s per se in fantasy football when you got the top two of the top 10 receivers in there. And then I think Ingram and Dalvin Cook, just to kind of round it out. I think Ingram's projection is a little low at only 8.1 against a pretty bad Indy team. I think he could definitely soar into the double digits relatively easily here, especially with a touchdown. And Dalvin, I think that's tough Buffalo defense to run against, but he's definitely going to get the opportunity too because they're not going to give Brees the ball more than probably 10 times this week.
No, I think they're going to ease him back into it, honestly. But I think going forward, Dalvin Cook's projection should just go steadily down.
I agree. I agree with that.
So, yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment.
And it's kind of interesting on the bench side here for Perine. He's actually projected more than Javonte is this year, which is kind of interesting. But so maybe some confusion over at ESPN about who's going to actually get the carries this week in Denver. But should be a relatively boring game against the Raiders with some mediocre quarterbacking play. And so we'll set. Well, I'm not going to tune into that one, but someone's going to have to. But sliding over to my team here. I really like Herbert against Miami this week. I think that's going to be a shootout kind of game. So I think he's slated to kind of come out of the gate running here in a possible MVP type season.
Yeah, he's due for one. He's super talented. We haven't really seen him have that big year yet, but he's definitely capable of it.
And my running backs, Chubb and Rashad, both I think are going to touch the ball a ton. Minnesota's defense was really bad last year, and Nick Chubb is just Nick Chubb. So I expect both those guys to kind of be right around or above those projections.
Yeah, Rashad White's going to get a ton of that ball. He wasn't like the most efficient runner last year, but I think the volume's there, and that's when you get him in the 16th round, that's amazing value. So
yeah, and I will say, like, towards the end of the year with him when I picked him up, he was definitely a must start player in fantasy football, at least in a 12-man league. Just certainly with the volume he was getting. So as him being the lead back there now, I think it's only going to speak volumes to what he's going to do. Sliding down to receivers here, Olave and Sutton. I think both of them have big weeks this week as well. Olave, I think, is just going to come out of the gate and just kind of ascend to kind of get to that like Devonta Smith level, like kind of like he did last year. And then I think Sutton with Jerry Jeudy out against a probably pretty bad secondary for the Raiders. Should have a nice day. I would think if Russ can actually throw the ball.
yeah, no, I think it's going to be close, but I think your team's a little bit more well-rounded. Aaron Jones in the flex is, I think, great.
Yeah,
I think it's Calvin Cook, but yeah, I think it's going to be close. But I could see you getting that cheer pretty easily.
yeah, and yeah, Aaron Jones, I think against Chicago is going to play pretty well, and then Waller, I think is just going to get a ton of targets there because who else is he throwing the ball to besides Saquon? I mean, a bunch of guys who can't stay off the IR, seems that way at least. But yeah, when I kind of broke this one down, I felt like kind of like what you said, that my team just seemed a little bit more consistent across the board, and I got some favorable matchups, I think. So I did give myself the nod here as far as getting the win, just because I really don't like Najee to get anywhere close to that 12-point projection, and I think Burrow's going to come in a little low as well. And so I think it'll be close. I very well could lose, but I definitely could see this being a kind of game where I could kind of slide and run away with it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I see you winning. That's pretty easily.
Oh, overall. All right. Well, moving on to the what's that?
I hate Javonte Williams this year.
See, I think he has a good upside this year. I just don't know how he's going to be out of the gate is my only concern. What just off that knee?
MCL and ACL, I think.
Yeah, it was the whole knee. Everything's gone. But this is a game that I don't think has to really have too much time spent on it with Team Nate versus Team Bucher. I think this one's over before it starts.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about some of the players if you want to on Nate's team, but if you're starting Evan Hall week 1, I think you kind of are already taking the loss there.
Yeah. It's that team's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah,
they need a 40-point game or something.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a huge game out of Bijan and Dak, and I think you could. That Giants game could end up being kind of interesting, but I think Diggs against Sauce Gardner is going to be a little rough. I don't really trust D-Hop this year, and that Saints defense is pretty solid if he's going to be across from Lattimore all season or all game. And then I think Pitts could have a good game, and I think Lockett could have a good game, but just that huge discrepancy with Evan Hall in the starting lineup's really going to come back to bite you there.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett, I don't know. I don't really trust any of the Seahawks wide receivers right now.
Just a little unsure where the ball's going to go, or
yeah, especially with Njigba coming back.
Yeah,
long term, I don't like Lockett. Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be much improved from last year. I think that 8.6 is probably a little bit low. DeAndre Hopkins, I just don't like this year. Diggs and Robinson and Prescott are going to have massive games here to win.
Yeah, and I just don't see a big game out of Diggs to keep this one close, just with the matchup against the Jets defense. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely, because Stefon Diggs is a tremendous player, but I just don't see it.
Before.
What was that?
I've been torched by him before. I know that.
Yeah, you lost your first championship game by that dreadful Monday night, so maybe it's another redemption shot for Team Nate. But then just kind of sliding over to Team Bucher here, because you gotta talk about the guy drafted a really, really strong team. Again, Deshaun Watson's a complete coin flip. I have no opinion on if he's going to be good or bad. But Henry and Pollard, I think, will have large days, and I honestly think with that and Waddle coming out in that shootout kind of game is really going to kind of solidify the win here and kind of blow this one out.
Yeah, I agree. That this team's a little bit ridiculous, honestly. Injuries aside, this team could probably win it all. I think Henry probably regresses a little bit just based on age.
I would agree.
DJ Moore's, we know, is super talented. So
he has every ability to be a wide receiver one. The question is, can he be schemed to be one?
I agree. Yeah.
And then Andrews, if he plays, I think is going to dominate Houston, and I think this Seattle Rams game is going to kind of be a little one sided. So I think Kenneth Walker is going to carry the ball a lot in the second half, and I think Team Bucher probably beats the 16-point projection here and probably puts this one close to like a 30-point win in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, it kind of stinks that week one and the Jonathan Taylor pick obviously is the glaring thing there. I mean, it's just, and then with a 12-team league, the waivers are a little thin as far as week one starters go. Now week 8 you could probably find some good value, but week one, I don't think so. So
no.
But moving on here, we got the Tongue Cat Throat Yogurt and Mr. Price versus the Rock Boys. A solid competitor last year against a guy who's trying to come off a quite miserable second to last place finish. But just kind of going down the line here, I think Trevor Lawrence lights it up. James Conner against Washington, he's going to touch the ball a lot. Jamal Williams is going to touch the ball a lot. So I don't necessarily know if those two running backs have like significant stat lines, but they could definitely score a touchdown each and definitely touch the ball a lot. So I think you'll get your points worth out of them.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the running backs. I love the wide receivers, and that obviously really fucking sucks with Kelce today. But
yeah, that I made some of these notes about this team, and I think I actually gave the edge to Rock Boys off the rip, but now with Kelce probably being out, and I mean having to slide Gerald Everett in there is not the worst option ever, but he's not Travis Kelce. I think with this receiving core, it's really, really solid. And I think Devontae might have a rough time with going against Surtain a little bit, especially with Jimmy G throwing the ball, trying to figure that whole situation out. But Ridley against Indy should be a slam dunk, and Addison against Tampa should probably be a slam dunk too if he's what we think he is. So I think this team can definitely put up points. With the Kelce news, I don't really think he has a puncher's chance in this one.
Yeah, I think that kind of just dismantles the whole team. Honestly, I think that's.
Well, I mean, he was the big pick, and he was the right pick. It's just and the guy hasn't been injured since his rookie year, which was 10 years ago. But fluky things happen, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then it's sliding over to Rock Boys real quick. Josh Allen against the Jets. Again, that projection feels a little high. I think that Jets defense is really, really good. I do think Josh Allen will have a perfectly good game. I just don't know if 23 points is gettable.
Yeah, I agree. That Jets defense is something. They're young. They're energetic.
They're awesome.
Yeah. Well, it could go either way. I think he's still going to put up a decent amount of points.
Yeah, I think 23 might be the right number, but I would lean on the lower side if I were to, and maybe not that much, like 20, 21. But yeah, because he's going to run the ball, but I just think not going to be as explosive as they'll be every week. And then obviously Eckler, slam dunk, Miami, put it to the bank. Put him in the quarterback slot if you could. Put him anywhere you want. He's going to put up all the points. David Montgomery, I don't hate it week one, just because I think this is probably where he's going to be higher value, just because they're trying to figure out Gibbs a little bit as far as what's going to work best. So Montgomery probably still get 15 touches, but
that projection's a little high. I think you don't go out and draft Gibbs, and then I think they do figure it out, and it's probably a little bit more limited than it will be down the season. But I think that's a little high. I think Gibbs is still the premier back on that team. So
yeah, I mean, I agree, but you get a pass interference in the end zone, and you're on the 1 yard line. Who's getting the ball? You're going to give it to the big boy David Montgomery to slam it in there. So I think that's why the projection's a little bit high, just because I think they know Detroit's going to have to score to win, and I think they're going to have some goal line opportunities, and think David Montgomery's getting his carries, so that's probably why the projection is what it is. But then kind of slide into I love his receivers this year with CD and McLaurin. I think those are two really top level guys. CD is going to pretty much dominate everyone, and McLaurin's got a really awesome matchup against Arizona. So I think both those guys, get the ball often, early, and for production.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing else to be said about that.
Yeah, that's about right. And then Njoku, I'm not on the Njoku train this year. I know a lot of people are. I think he'll be serviceable. I just don't think he's going to be anywhere close to like a top 5 kind of guy, like
No,
a lot of people are thinking. But I
every
think
year,
he'll be fine with this team. How it's constructed, I think he's going to be perfectly serviceable. And then Marquise Brown is going to get. I mean, no one else on that team can fucking catch the ball, so he's going to by proxy get 15 targets a game.
yeah, Marquise Brown, I'm not super high on this year. I think it's more of just like wait and see with that.
I mean, how
And
can you be? It's that offense is going to be putrid, and who's throwing the ball? Josh Dobbs. But to me, it just kind of comes down to the fact that he's going to be the only guy on the field that has real stats next to his name. So he's just going to get a lot of scheme and targets.
yeah, yeah. This matchup's a toss up. Honestly, it could go either way.
Yeah, I thought it was a toss up at first, but with the Kelsey news, I really just gotta. And even when Kelsey was playing, I threw it to Rock Boys here. So with Kelsey most likely being out, I'll still give it to Rock Boys and Tongue Cat Throat Yogurt's going to have some thinking to do with his week 2 if this Kelsey thing's a little bit longer of an issue, but hopefully not, because obviously that's going to be the end all for his season.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, sucks to lose your guy before the season even starts. But is it only a hyperextension, so it probably won't be that long of an injury if he even. I mean, I don't think he'll play at this point Thursday. If the game was on Sunday, maybe, but
yeah. I don't think he plays, but it'll probably just be like a 1 week thing.
That's my expectation as well. But look, going over here to Wuhan versus the Milkman, 2 teams that could be playoff contenders, could be bottom feeders. We don't know yet. Going down the line here with Wuhan, Kirk Cousins, good matchup against Tampa. I think that's a slam dunk, works out for him. But I'm not a big fan of the Kirk Cousins as your slated starter in fantasy football every single week.
Yeah, it doesn't work out well. I've been there. So
yeah, and I think this one kind of gets a little tough because CMC obviously is the number 1 fantasy running back to have. Really tough matchup this week against that really good Pittsburgh defense. So I think that game's going to be really ugly. It's going to be really low scoring, and I think San Fran probably pulls it out just because they're a better team. But I could easily see it being a field goal at the end kind of game. Then Miles Sanders, I think against Atlanta slam dunk. That's going to be a good matchup, but I think you're not going to get that 15 out of CMC this week. It just doesn't feel like it's going to happen.
no, I could see that being super low scoring. Yeah, 15. I feel like it's a lot for any running back usually. So just wait and see. Miles Sanders actually really do like this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be. I could see him going over that 13.6, but wait and see.
Yeah.
I love both the wide receivers and the tight end.
I mean Higgins is a weekly dominant kind of player, and does Debo kind of get back on track as being that guy again? Because if he's any bit like he was 2 years ago, this team's going to be a problem to face with CMC and Debo every single week, and the new richest tight end in football, Hawkinson, like you said, I think he's going to put up some really strong numbers this year with Kirk. So kind of got a couple of handcuffs here as far as a lot of heavy touchdown guys here on this team for the San Francisco 49ers, which is a great team to have. And, obviously the Hawkinson Cousins connection is going to be strong. And the flex on this team, I'm not a big fan of. I think Nick and I got in a rather large talk on our draft review about who you play in the flex. Pittman's in there now. I think that's probably fair. So I think the Colts are going to be chasing a lot this game. So Richardson's going to have to throw. So it makes sense. But yeah, this team could go either way for me. I just think he's got some rough matchups this week as far as his top end players.
Yeah. I don't know. Starting.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Starting Pittman this week. I kind of really like Higbee this week against Seattle. I know that's a little bit unconventional, probably, but I like that.
You
on the
would go
team.
with the double tight end strat there. You think
Yeah,
Higbee's gonna find it,
yeah, I do. He comes down with those touchdowns sometimes. So
or are you interested in the Sky Moore situation just with Kelsey being possibly out and that being a guy that's gonna probably get a lot more targets than he would have 5 hours ago. So
yeah, yeah, probably. I mean, I didn't even think of that. It's probably a good shout right there.
yeah, so I mean, you got some options here. I think just with the updated injuries and stuff, I think you have Sky Moore's a better play, but it he very well could do absolutely nothing because Mahomes just throws the ball around and doesn't really matter unless it's Kelsey. But then just kind of sliding over to Milkman here, uh, taking my guy Justin Fields that I was kicking myself that I didn't keep. I think I should have kept him going back on that, but I think he's just going to be one of those guys that beats his projection every week and just does it with his legs like he always does.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to town this week on Green Bay.
Yeah, that defense, I don't think is going to be very good in Green Bay. So I think he's going to be able to kind of cut it up a little bit. I agree with that. Looking at, and he's got the little Khalil Herbert action going on with it. I like that. I think Herbert's going to have a good week. And I think Jacobs we'll see what he looks like. I expect he's going to have a decent game, but that Denver defense is pretty strong. And, Guy missed most of camp. So we'll see what shape he's in. But I don't hate these running backs. I don't love them. I think I'll like them more like in 2 weeks. But
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Mike Evans yet, but overall that team's pretty good. I like it.
yeah, I love the receivers here too. Two number one receivers on their team. I love that. Mike Evans, you don't have to start him. I'm a big Deontay Johnson fan. I think he's going to have a really nice year, but bad matchup this week.
Yeah,
Rondale Moore could be a thought, but I think Mike Evans is probably your best play. I think the glaring weakness with this team is clearly the tight end position, though. I like Chig. I think he has a lot of potential. He's all or nothing. So he's projected what, 6? He could end
yeah,
up with 2. He could end up with 15. Uh, you don't know, and that's just kind of that's what you don't want out of the tight end position are those big swings because you want to know what you're getting out of that spot because it's just so feast or famine.
yeah. If you don't get one of those top guys, it's what they're all like. It's either you're getting 0.3 points or you're getting 2 touchdowns and 20 yards. Just
And
weird.
it might not seem like a big deal. He's only projected 6.6, but he's based off the projections, he's only favored by 1.5. So, you come in at a 2 or a 3, and based off the projections, it's a loss. So it's not a lot of margin for error when you have a guy that I think there are a lot more consistent options available or that were available at that time in the draft. But that's just kind of my critique. But after looking at these two teams, I kind of ended up giving it to the Milkman as far as I think it's going to win. Just with Fields and Tyreek, I think that's kind of the end all be all with this team. It's kind of have to be like that all year for this team to win.
Yeah, it's really could go either way. I honestly kind of like Wazinski's team this week, but
Okay, I think that's our first disagreement, isn't it?
yeah, I think I like the handcuff between Cousins and Hawkinson, so I
Hmm.
think that's give him some boosted points there.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and Tampa Bay is probably a pretty favorable matchup as far as going against defenses because that team's kind
Yeah,
of in disarray right now. It's pretty old and a lot of new faces in town, so I don't disagree with that take. I think it's a close game, but I just gave my edge to Milkman just because I know what Justin Fields can do. I know what Tyreek Hill can do,
yeah,
um, and I just don't see the equivalent guys on Wazinski's team to be able to kind of put up those humongous numbers if need be. They can all have good days, but I think Fields or Tyreek can easily, not easily, but they can put up 50 points, before you even know it.
oh, I know. Yeah,
So that's just my logic, but I don't disagree with you. I think it's going to be a pretty close one
yeah,
there. And then the matchup that everybody is clamoring for, and basically why we did this rivalry week. We got the real Team Coleman, which I don't really like get the name there because we already have a Team Coleman, but Pro Sales always likes to stir things up versus Risky Dipper. Two guys that love to talk a lot of shit to each other and just beat the tail out of each other during fantasy football. So, what are your first impressions here when kind of looking at these two teams? What kind of stands out?
um, it's gonna be whether Cooper Cup plays, really. I think if he doesn't, this is gonna be pretty one-sided, and if he does, it's could go either way. I think Risky Dipper here probably has the edge. I actually don't like Christian Watson this year. I think he's going to regress a little bit. His running backs are amazing. He's got Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
Garrett
Garrett
Wilson,
amazing.
Goddard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably got to go to Risky Dipper here. This is a little one-sided.
Yeah, that's kind of how this broke down for me. I kind of looked at it and it kind of seemed over really before it started when I started kind of getting into who's starting for who's got the matchups. Like I don't like Hurts against New England this week. I think he's going to throw the ball on the outside for your guys, but I don't think Hurts is gonna put up what Hurts can put up against some other teams. But Belichick's really good at scheming, taking away things from guys, and I think he's going to take away Jalen's legs this week. Mixon. I think they might rely on him a little bit more this week, just with Burrow. So I think he'll be fine. Brian Robinson Jr., good matchup. That's about all I got to say there. Cooper Cup, you almost wish he doesn't play, right? Because if he goes out there and plays and he's limited and he gets 40% of the snaps that he normally gets, obviously you have to start him if he's playing, but it kind of hurts you unless he finds a touchdown, just because he's such a high volume guy that if half of his snaps can make him kind of average. So Keenan Allen, I like. Freiermuth, I think he'll have a nice day actually against San Fran. I think they'll find a lot of safety valve play for him while Pickett's under duress a little bit. And again, Mike Williams, kind of the same reason why I like all the Miami and all the Charger players this week. I just think that game's going to be a really high scorer. But bench options if Cup is out, I mean, it seems pretty clear that you'd slide Mike Williams into that wide receiver spot. But James Cook, I don't hate. I think I don't love the matchup, but I think he could have a decent day.
Yeah, he's going to have. So.
Yeah, I don't really see a guy on this team. I mean, obviously you can't replace Cooper Cup, but I don't think Cup will play. And if he does, it's probably worse for this team than if he just didn't play. So that's obviously a huge swinger there. And this will be Mike's team, like you said, really strong team here. Mahomes against Detroit, gonna go off like he always does. Barkley's gonna do what he always does. Stevenson, I think, is gonna be better. Zeke's fat and old. I think he's not really gonna be impacted by that too much.
No.
Garrett Wilson's a stud, and that Buffalo secondary is a little shaky as far as the cover corners go because Tre'Davious White is healthy, and I don't know if he's gonna shadow, but he's getting a little older. I don't know if he has that same step he did before. Well, I like Christian Watson this year. Why do you think he's going to regress?
I don't know. I think just Jordan Love is not going to be it.
You're not on the Love train.
I'm not. I just it's a big downgrade when you're going from Rodgers to Love. So.
Well, based off of how Rodgers played last year, I don't know how much of a difference it really is because obviously if it's MVP Rodgers, then yes, obviously. But Rodgers last year was middle of the road. So do you think Love can be middle of the road?
No.
You're just not in.
I think he's gonna be ass.
Jordan hate over there. I think he'll be good. I think Christian Watson will probably be a little bit more boomer bust though. To your point, I don't think he'll kind of be as like that fantasy dominant player like he was. But Goddard, I think he gets kind of shut down a little bit. But it's kind of one of those double-edged things because if Goddard does have a good day, that kind of deters Jalen Hurts a little bit. And I think JK, if he's, I think JK is going to have a good day against Houston. That's just a really bad defense. So again, this is kind of what I think kind of blows out the projection a little bit. Even if Cooper Cup was 100% go, I'd still give Risky Dipper the win probably by at least 10.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
this should be. Yeah.
Yeah, I Risky Dipper's gonna be. I think that the more I look at this team, the more I think he's got all the tools to be in it at the end. It's just a matter of can he find it? Can he do it himself? And because he's been a bottom feeder in this league for a while, so can this be the year he ascends? That's going to be the big question, I think, for that team. And I'll let you take the lead here on your matchup here with Tyler. Any notes you'd like to say to Tyler before you kind of get going here? Best wishes or any malicious slander?
Nah, I like Tyler. I'll keep it civil. He probably should get the win here, honestly. My team is so boomer bust, and I think it's going to take a few weeks for them to really get rolling. I think I knew what I was getting with Brees Hall. I think I have to really wait for him to come back and
Mhm.
get this team going. But yeah, I think it's unless Lamar and Flowers really go off and Devonta and Brown have good games, I'm going to need something out of Akers since I'm missing Brees Hall. So yeah, I think Coleman really should get the win here. There's no reason he shouldn't. I think his team is overall pretty well rounded. There's not any major gaps. I mean,
Yeah, I would agree. He did leave me a note for you that quote that I love him and that he's the best person ever was
yeah,
his notes to you for the matchup. So a lot of love fest going on in this matchup, but kind of just looking at it, I don't like Rodgers this week. I think his running backs are. I don't think Pierce is going to do well. I think the Ravens are just going to really shut down Houston altogether this week.
yeah,
Not, I'm trying not to be hometown bias about it, but I know the Ravens have extreme success against rookie quarterbacks, especially it's his first game. So I think Stroud's going to kind of look out of sorts,
yeah.
and they're definitely not going to bench him week one. So
I see them abandoning the run game very early on, probably.
they might
Oh,
have to, especially if Lamar and Zay go off a little bit, then yeah, they're. I mean, Pierce is going to be catching some screens, but that's gonna be about it. Unless he scores a
yeah,
touchdown, which I don't necessarily see that happening. He's gonna be kind of obsolete. But I think ETN has a nice day. Chase is Chase. Metcalf, I think, should be okay. But I'm not that high on Metcalf. I know you're not. Uh, but he's kind of boomer bust a little bit for me. He's obviously extremely talented, but I think last year he had some games where he really just didn't show up for like a month. So
yeah.
you could
He's a
catch that downswing.
wide receiver too in this team. It's a great option, honestly.
Oh, for sure. And it's to counter that too. I love London off the bench. Think
I
he's
was
going to be a really nice player this year. So even if Metcalf's not getting it done, you have an option that will probably, in my opinion. Schultz, I don't expect much out of them. Maybe some safety valve plays, kind of like Fryermuth. I think on that. And then Madison, I think has a good week.
Yeah,
Pretty bad Bucks defense, like we said, and just kind of sliding over to your team. I think Lamar has a good day. He seems to put up some crazy stat lines week one. Gibbs, I think, has a nice night against Kansas City.
I agree.
I think they're going to kind of utilize him. No Chris Jones, no Kelsey. Even though Kelsey plays tight end, obviously he not having probably your most impressive weapon on the field can deter even the defensive side of the ball as far as momentum goes. Cam Akers, I think he's really the only option to get the ball in that backfield. So if whether that offense is good or bad, I think the touches are there. Like I said before, with your receivers, I think both of them have good days. I think Belichick's really going to try to take away the middle of the field and his legs this week. So I think the outsides are going to be left up to some young cornerbacks who are unproven. So obviously, when you have that with two studs like this, could go your way. Kittle doesn't. If he does play, I think Purdy always finds him, so I don't think it's a bad play. If he's out, sliding in Sam Laporta Potty, probably not the worst option. I think Detroit does a good job of scheming their tight ends, the ball at least in some fashion. And then Flowers, I think jury's out. Obviously, a lot of new targets in the Ravens offense, whole new offense altogether. We're going to see, but Flowers are definitely going to scheme him the ball a lot because he is extremely talented with the ball in his hand. So, with that being said, I do lean towards Tyler's team, like you said, but I definitely can see a way that you pull this one out. Just I kind of like some of your matchups a little bit more than his because, like I said, with Pierce and Schultz, I could both see them coming well under their projections. Metcalf, I could see coming under. So there's definitely some areas to where you can slide up. But
Yeah, it's
that's
come down.
that's really where I see the glaring weakness is that Pierce projection.
Yeah, I think his team's just a lot more well-rounded. You have pieces there that have proven themselves year after year. I have 5 rookies on my team currently. Um, so I'm I'm almost playing for next year. I got some good keeper options, maybe.
You definitely do. I will say, but you definitely have some guys that could come up here and definitely, I think, handle themselves and kind of ascend into almost must start guys. So, let's wait and see. But I think your team has probably the most upside of any team in the league, going from maybe a team that's out of the playoffs to a team that's contending for a title. So it could
Yeah,
go.
I think last year I was projected last as well,
Mhm.
or close to it. So that worked out pretty well. Maybe we
Yeah.
probably not, but
All right. So in synopsis, we both agree that I take it down with Takate's boys. Shout out Lolita, ESPN being a bunch of poopies, not letting my team name be Lolita. But that's, if you don't know, look up my girl Lolita on the internet and shout out. So Team Bucher takes it down. I think that's not even a thought.
no.
Did we both like Rock Boys, or did you like Ryan?
I think we both like Rock Boys, but that
Yeah.
won't count either way.
Yeah, I think with the Kelsey news, I think really changes that. But yeah, it's gonna be a tight one. There's definitely some good ones this week. I think I leaned the Milkman. I think you leaned Wazinski, so that was a difference there. I think we both leaned Mike, and then I think we both leaned Coleman on the final one. So
Yeah.
kind of where you stand with Ed and myself, week going into week one. But just with that being said, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. But anything you're looking forward to watching this week as far as individual players, matchups, anything like that?
I'm really interested in Jameer Gibbs, honestly.
Mm,
I have a lot riding on it. So we'll wait and see about that. I think there's a lot of exciting rookies this year. I think
absolutely.
we have Bijan, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited it's back. I'm excited to start shit talking again. I just hope my team does well enough where I can do that. Because if it's not, I probably won't say a word. I'll probably put the chat
Well,
on me.
some people haven't let their records indicate how much shit they're going to talk. So, you can kind of
Yeah,
slide in there.
some of those records in this league are a little crazy, and some people need to shut the fuck up because they don't have any fucking thing to stand on. So
We get heard it here. With those kind words, I'm gonna say adieu. Ed, thanks again for joining me. We'll probably see you again on the pod here relatively soon, and good luck this week.
thank you. See ya.
Alrighty.